In the entire history of the Soviet Union, there was never a planned and peaceful transition of leadership. Of the 8 Communist Party secretaries who ruled over nearly 7 decades from 1922 to 1991, 6 remained in power until their deaths, 1 was overthrown, and Gorbachev presided over the dissolution of the entire state. There was never a peaceful transfer of power in any major communist country until the early 2000s when Chinese leader Jiang Zemin voluntarily resigned. For the first time in China's history, there was no coup, intrigue, or political infighting during the transition of power. Jiang Zemin endorsed his successor, even though he didn't choose him. This marked a departure from the era of one-man rule, and leaders over the age of 68 were expected to retire. Each successive leader from Mao Zedong to Deng Xiaoping to Jiang Zemin to Hu Jintao had less power than the previous one. The term intra-party democracy was used to describe this period, indicating that while there was only one party, there was room for competition and debate within it. Policies were to be discussed, leaders rotated, and the best ideas were supposed to prevail. However, Xi Jinping reversed all this progress and is about to begin his 3rd term in office. With no designated successor and very little competition, there seems to be no end in sight for his rule. The video discusses how China shifted from intra-party democracy to one-man rule in a single generation and delves into how the Chinese Communist Party actually works. Every 5 years, typically in October or November, about 2,300 people from across China travel to the Great Hall of the People in Beijing for the National Party Congress. The most recent one, the 20th Party Congress, began on October 16, 2022. These delegates are relatively low-ranking party members, representing a broad cross-section of society, including farmers, celebrities, factory workers, and mayors. Ethnic minorities are also showcased in their traditional attire to create an image of unity. The whole National Party Congress is a grand spectacle, with elaborate red curtains, golden tassels, and more applause than an American State of the Union address. In the lead-up to this important political event, the Chinese Communist Party takes no risks. VPNs, or virtual private networks, although typically tolerated for use by foreigners and tech-savvy individuals, suddenly stop working. Dissenters are placed under house arrest, police patrols are intensified, and private businesses, both Chinese and foreign, are cautioned against making significant announcements that might disrupt the party's proceedings. It's political theater, but not the kind that most people would choose to watch voluntarily. On the first day, the party secretary delivers a lengthy speech known as the political report. This speech reflects on the past 5 years and sets the priorities for the next phase. It reveals how profoundly Leninist the Communist Party remains, focusing on vague slogans such as the 3 represents, 4 comprehensives, or a strengthening of confidences. China watchers must decode these obscure slogans to infer the country's direction. Following the speech, the 2,300 delegates study it and inevitably accept it without any challenges. This is because the real decisions have already been made well in advance. Although the party doesn't publicly acknowledge this, officials meet secretly at a summer resort east of Beijing. Another significant term on the agenda is amending the party's constitution. During this process, no laws are crafted. Instead, ideological statements are put forth. For instance, in 2017, Xi Jinping's name was added to the party's constitution, signifying that he is more than just another politician, but a great figure in party history. The most critical task at the end of this week is when delegates elect members of the Central Committee. The process of electing leaders within the Chinese Communist Party involves several steps, but it's important to remember that most decisions have been made beforehand. During the National Party Congress, delegates are presented with candidates to choose from for seats in the Central Committee, which is the next level up in the party hierarchy. In 2017, there were 222 candidates for 204 seats, allowing the delegates to reject only 9% of them. These 204 individuals become members of the Central Committee, and there are also alternates who attend meetings but can't vote. Alternates may replace full members if they die or lose their positions. The Central Committee holds at least one annual meeting known as a plenum, with the first one occurring the day after the party congress ends. Their most crucial task is to elect members of the 25-member Political Bureau, also known as the Politburo, which is another level up in the party hierarchy. The Politburo, in turn, elects a standing committee, typically consisting of 7 or 9 people, one of whom is the General Secretary of the party, currently Xi Jinping. It's worth noting that China uses the term General Secretary rather than President because it is a party state, meaning it has both a government and a single ruling party that, while closely aligned, are distinct entities. The government, represented by the National People's Congress, holds its own version of a Congress, and multiple parties participate in the People's Congress, not just the Communist Party. These parties coexist within the United Front, but don't compete with the CCP. The People's Congress elects the country's president and premier every 5 years in the spring on the state side, while the Party Congress elects the general secretary every 5 years in the fall on the party side. While there's a significant overlap between the party and state, not all party members work for the state, as there are nearly 100 million party members in total. Xi Jinping, as General Secretary, serves as the head of the party, and as president, he is head of the state. This dual role allows him to choose which title to use depending on the context, such as when visiting foreign countries where he typically presents himself as the President of China, except in nations like Communist Cuba or North Korea. In China, the party holds a paramount position above the state. This is exemplified by the fact that the People's Liberation Army reports directly to the party, not the government. The title of leaders in different roles illustrates this hierarchy. A city's party secretary is given the license plate number 1, while the major receives 2. China's legal system also includes a separate parallel justice system that operates under the control of the Communist Party. The use of the title president for leaders like Xi Jinping is viewed by many as a deliberate strategy to obscure the importance of the party and make China appear more like other countries to investors and the international community. This strategy aims to create the impression that private property and business dealings are not at risk of confiscation for political reasons. The key point is that in China, significant political power doesn't require a specific title, and having a particular title doesn't automatically guarantee power. Leadership transitions and power dynamics within the party are often more complex than they might appear on the surface. For example, the seemingly peaceful transfer of power from Jiang Zemin to Hu Jintao in 2002 had nuances, as Jiang continued to hold sway as the head of the military until he was pressured to step down in 2004. The Chinese Communist Party's adherence to consistent rules and norms is influenced by both external perceptions and their own calculated actions, blurring the lines between reality and perception. In China, power doesn't automatically come with holding a particular office. It's something that leaders must actively strive for and consolidate over time. Leaders often start in relatively weak positions and gradually work to build their authority. What sets Xi Jinping apart is not just his ambition for power, but the speed at which he acquired it. There were few concrete rules or obstacles preventing him from accumulating power. It was largely a matter of political skill, strategy, and good fortune. Xi Jinping comes from a family with a revolutionary and high-ranking party connections. This background gave him a degree of privilege and, likely, a sense of entitlement. He experienced hardship during the Cultural Revolution when he was sent to the countryside to learn from the proletariat, but later, during a time of political revival, he entered government service. Xi often secured government jobs due to their connections, but were seldom promoted to top positions for fear that they might pose a challenge or replace their superiors. Xi adopted a different approach by keeping a low profile, taking lower-profile jobs outside the city and gradually ascending the political ladder. When he finally reached the pinnacle of power in 2012, he was better connected than most of his peers. Xi Jinping's rise was facilitated by his ability to build political networks, manage rivals through initiatives like the anti-corruption campaign, and secure his position within the party. He is now effectively unchallenged, making him the most powerful Chinese leader since Mao Zedong.